Hello and welcome back, artists and designers. Today we're going to go ahead and make some badge shapes in Adobe Illustrator. So if I go and do a quick Google search, I'm going to pull this up here. If you look for like badge logo, you are going to find a whole bunch of different things. This is a very popular traditional way to design and work with logos. So once you know some of the basics here, we can kind of build on this and you can use this for logo design. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So I'm going to jump in here and we're basically going to be using the simple shape tools, the pen tool, and the shape builder a little bit here to do some modifications. Let's start with this first one. So I'm going to go ahead and make a rectangle about the size that I want it to be. And let's crank up that stroke a little bit so that we can see it here. And now I'm just going to simply grab the direct selection tool, the white arrow, and I just want these two bottom anchor points. I can either, because if I start doing this now, it's going to make the whole thing round, which could work as well, but we just want the bottom two corners. So I'm going to click, hold shift, and click, drag those two up, and there we go. We got our first one. So let's go over here and try this one. This one we could try to build with a rectangle, but I believe that the polygon tool is going to be a little bit better here. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag, and if I hold shift, that's going to kind of maintain that proportion for me. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it there. And that's not quite right, obviously. So I'm going to go to the corner and I'm going to rotate so that I get the point down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and rotate and also hold down shift until I get that point at the bottom. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and grab our selection tool and kind of get that lined up right here. So obviously it's not right on the sides. I'm going to go ahead and bring my sides in. And you can see I'm bringing in, it's still not quite right. So let's see if we can move a couple of these anchor points around a little bit. What if I just shift this one up a little bit? So I'm going to grab my direct selection and look for that smart guide, which is glitching out a little bit, but let's move that up a little bit. And let's grab all three of these anchor points. So I'm going to drag over, select all three, and now I can just kind of grab on this and move that up a little bit. And if you hold shift, that's going to help. Again, shift key comes in handy. Let's grab these three again here, hold shift, and bring that down. That's about where I want that here. And let's see what happens if I go up and just round out this top corner. So I'm going to click on that one corner and hold this and kind of bring that down. And that gets me to about the shape that I want there. So essentially just a hexagon, we rotate it and we kind of resize it and round out one corner. Again, these are all starting points for you so that you can get a little bit more complicated as you go. So with this one, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build half of it and then I'm going to reflect it with the reflect tool. So let's grab our pen tool and I'm going to go ahead and start up the top here and I'm going to click once, click again here. And I'm just going to, I could go down and try to make this triangle and then round it out, but I think what I'll do is say, let's put an anchor point right here, and let's put one down so it lines up right here, and then we'll go ahead and close that shape off. So I got half of it right here, about the size that I want. So now with the direct selection tool, I'm going to go back, click this anchor point, and let's round that guy out right here, and I could go all the way up or maybe just to here, and that seems about right. Is that exactly the reference that I have? I'm not sure, but I think that looks pretty good. So once I have that half created, I'm simply going to select it. I'm going to grab the reflect tool, which is right under that rotate tool. There we go, or quick key O. And it's going to want to reflect on the center point of the shape. So I'm going to go right over here, hold Alt or Option if you're on Mac, and go ahead and hit copy on that. It's going to flip on the vertical and we get the full shape, and now all I got to do is select both, my handy dandy shape builder right here, and zip those two together and I get my nice badge shape right there. So that looks pretty good. Let's move on down here. So since I have this here, I could go ahead and trace this with the pen tool, but I'm going to try something a little bit different. This is a trick that's going to come in handy for I think this one and the next one. Let's just make our rectangle for this ribbon style here. So I'm going to go ahead and make my rectangle. I'm going to grab my pen tool, and with the rectangle still selected, when you go to a path, by default it's going to add that plus to the pen tool, and you're going to see, hey, it wants to add an anchor point. Let's add that anchor point right in line with the center of our rectangle, and we'll hit plus right there. So it's going to add an anchor point, which we can now grab that anchor point, and we're going to drag that up, and again, look for those smart guides or hold that shift key down so that we can drag it up as far as we want to the center of that, and let's go ahead and go right there. So we've got that shape right there, which is a really handy shape, because once we have that, you can probably imagine how we could get this shape based on that. We just rotate it and combine it together to get a more complex shape. So this one here, again, if I'm tracing, I could use the pen tool for this and very easily get half of this and trace it out. I'm going to see if I can start with a rectangle and add a couple anchor points the same way that we did with the last one, but really ultimately you can kind of pick how you like to do this. So let's go ahead and grab this one, get some of these anchor points lined up here where I want them. So let's say I have that. I'm going to grab my pen tool. We need an anchor point at the bottom, and again, look at that smart guide lining up there. And we need an anchor point at the top. Again, smart guide, there we go. And let's go ahead and manipulate a couple of these. So direct selection tool, let's go ahead and just kind of pull that down. Again, keep that smart guide in mind. Looks like it's glitching out there a little bit, but there we go. And then let's see, these ones I think I want to bring in. I'm going to go ahead and just try and do this with my arrow key. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that should get me a pretty even looking shape there. Again, probably a bit easier if you're tracing something like you could here. You could trace that with the pen tool, get half of it, and reflect it just like we did up here. All right, what do we do on this last one? Well, we're going to use a little trick here. Grab our ellipse tool, and I'm going to go ahead and make a circle. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and make sure that we get a perfect circle right here. And let's go ahead and line that up. Again, use that as a guideline. So here is our trick for this. We're going to go over to our properties panel, and under the effects menu, we are going to hit the distort and transform feature. And under the distort and transform, there is one that says zigzag. And we're going to hit on that. And by default, it's going to give us these points, which we might want. So we can kind of go, okay, maybe we want a whole bunch of points and we will make this starburst shape. And that works okay. And how big do we want those points to be? I'm going to leave that pretty small. And I want a couple more. And then here's the key. If we want that rounded shape, I'm just going to hit smooth instead of corner. And it's going to round those out. And then I just have to kind of dial this in to be what I kind of want it to look like. So I think on my example one, maybe something around those lines look pretty good. So about 3 points here and ridges per segment about 9, give or take. I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. So with that said, you know now how to make a couple very basic badge shapes, which again, if I go back to my Google search, you can see all sorts of badge shapes in here that are used for a whole bunch of different emblem and graphic design elements for logos. So have some fun, play around. After you have created my shapes right here, what I'd love to have you do is add a fresh page for yourself and see if you can come up with 6 more ideas to complete a set. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.